At this time, we're starting our regular meeting. Will please have the roll call?
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Here.
Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
Councilmember Nastandi.
Here.
Councilmember Truby.
Here.
Mayor Quintanilla.
Present.
All council is present.
Thank you very much. We now move on to the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Councilmember Nastande. Please stand if you're able.
Please.
This week's inspiration will be led by Councilmember Truby.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. So today I decided, I pulled a little quote from Cliff Henderson, who, if all of you know, was considered the founder of our city. And this was from an interview that ran in 1979 that I thought was pretty instructive and illuminating. So it goes, after I had made up my mind to build a community here, the next step was to purchase about 16 or 17 parcels of land. And it all had to be contiguous because it was going to be a complete community along Highway 111 with convenience shops and stores, service stations, doctors, etc. During the 3 or 4 months that the land was being quietly acquired from various individuals, and since I had no personal background in community planning, I acquired the services of Tommy Thompson, a nationally known land planning engineer. All of the rules had to be adhered to. All the streets and sidewalks and everything had to be legitimate because I knew that eventually the community would be incorporated as a city. The initial plan included fine roads and boulevards, 2 or 3 parks and playgrounds for a full life for the members of a family. And I just love and I'm so grateful for the vision that the Henderson brothers had. And I'm just so proud to continue with that vision today and kind of hold true to it. They pretty remarkable people, and I'm honored to be a part of this city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I always like going back and seeing the context. That's great. Where'd you find the quote?
On the interweb, Palm Desert Historical Society, Hourglass magazine, published in, I think, 2018.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. This time we move on to item number 8. Is there a report from closed session?
Thank you, Mayor. There's no report out of the closed session this afternoon. There was no reportable action taken by the council.
Thank you very much. Item number 9, awards, presentations, and appointments. We will be recognizing Gerald Dawson for Parks and Recreation Committee. We have a few things for you.
Oh, my.
This is a service clock from the City of Palm Desert
Oh, nice.
for your years of service from 2003 to 2024.
Thank you very much.
But that's not all.
Oh.
So we'll be able to put this in the little box for you so it goes nice and safe. Now, this here is a proclamation from the Desert Recreation District. Whereas Gerald Dawson has served as a city council appointed member of the Palm Desert Parks and Recreation Commission for 21 years, from May 16th, 2003 to April 2nd, 2024, and has demonstrated exemplary dedication, leadership, and vision in enhancing the quality of life for the residents and visitors of Palm Desert. And whereas Gerald Dawson has contributed significantly to the planning, development, and improvement of various parks and recreation facilities and programs in Palm Desert, and whereas Gerald Dawson has advocated for the preservation and protection of the natural environment, the promotion of health and wellness, the provision of accessible and inclusive recreation opportunities, and fostering of community engagement and partnerships in the delivery of parks and recreation services. And whereas Gerald Dawson has been a valued and respected member of the Palm Desert Parks and Recreation Commission and the Palm Desert community, and has earned the admiration and gratitude of his fellow commissioners, staff, and citizens for his outstanding service and achievements. Whereas Gerald Dawson has announced his retirement from the Palm Desert Parks and Recreation Committee on April 2nd, 2024, and has expressed his gratitude for the opportunity to serve the community. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Desert Recreation District Board of Directors hereby expresses its sincere appreciation and commendation to Gerald Dawson for his 21 years of service on the Palm Desert Parks and Recreation Commission and wishes him all the best in his future endeavors. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand on this 10th day of April, 2024. President of the Board, Luis Espinosa.
Thank you very much.
He wants to share a few words. The city wouldn't be what it is if it weren't for you, your dedication and your commitment. And Councilmember Kelly has a few words as well.
Hello.
My mother, Mary Ellen Kelly, asked me to say a couple words on her behalf because she served with Jerry for more than a decade. And she asked me to express her appreciation for your dedication, your good humor, and your skill at running meetings from her that is high praise.
Thank you so much. Mother, my love.
Before you head off, we're going to take a few pictures so that you can have your, Kathleen, would you like to be in the pictures? See, we'll get your beautiful clock here so you can hold on to that. We're going to do it here. And if you'd like, I can hold your proclamation. Put it back in the box here. Now, if you would like to say a few words.
I don't dare get started, or we may be here all afternoon, but I'll just finish by saying it has been a real pleasure for me to represent some of the citizens of Palm Desert on this commission. And it's been fun. It's been hassling sometimes, but it always, I go home thinking, okay, this committee did a good job. I'm proud I'm a part of it. Thank you very much.
One final bit of gratitude. So on behalf of the residents of Palm Desert, past, present, and future, thank you for everything that you've done.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. We have another award, and this is a presentation for the Wildflower Festival, and we have an update.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and distinguished council members. There we go. I'm here today to report about the Wildflower Festival held in March and also the Desert Kids Fun Fest that we had in January that was sponsored by the city of Palm Desert. Whoops. Hang on, I'm getting too happy here with the button. Yeah, I want to go backwards. There we go. There we go. So at the event, as most of you are aware, about 12:30, we had to shut the event down due to the extremely high winds. But before that, we had 15 vendors show up, 19 exhibitors, 9 food trucks, 9 kids activities in the kids zone, along with a youth art contest with about 700 art on display from youth. from Desert Recreation District, from the YMCA of the Desert, and some Housing Coalition and the Mecca Library. Along with that, we had aerial performances, we had a beer and wine garden, and then we had over 100 volunteers, including our staff and our board members at the event, helping out. So here are some of the pictures prior to the shutdown of the event. So we were in full swing getting this set up. Here's some of the advertising to make sure we got the word out about the Wildflower Festival. And this year we decided to make an investment in some of our banners that we have at the festival. One of the comments that had come into us was, we can't see, when you come into the festival, we don't know where things are at. So we made an investment in these banners, which, as you can see, they are bilingual and they actually are displayed above the tents. So as you walk into the park, you can see the different areas and what is taking place. And one of our huge goals at Friends of the Desert Mountains is making sure that everything is bilingual when it leaves our front doors. And before everything got shut down, here's some of our displays, our vendor booths, volunteers in action. Here's some of the art displays. Again, Kids Zone, welcoming our pets to the festival. Here's some of our vendors and exhibitors again. And here's our Kids Zone, some of the activities. Our youth art contest, so you can tell the wind was starting to pick up by the bottom picture of the art display. That was minor compared to later in the morning. Here's the aerial performances that were taking place, which was a huge hit. So we're looking forward to bringing them back next year as well. And then prior to the Wildflower Festival, we hold a 5K up on the Randall Henderson Trail, which is it's on City of Palm Desert's property up there, the Randall Henderson Trail. So we had almost 100 people show up the weekend prior. We kick off Wildflower Festival the week prior to the 5K. Okay. There we go. Here's some of our lifesavers, of course, our volunteers at the 5K and at the festival. And we couldn't make this festival happen without all of our sponsors at the event. And we want to thank the City of Palm Desert for your continued support. One update that wasn't in here, of course, was the Desert Kids Fun Fest that was held in January. We had approximately 500 kids and family members come out and enjoy it. But the Friends have decided to combine both events into one. So we want to make the Wildflower Festival bigger and better instead of exhausting all of our volunteers in January. So we're going to, in 2025, we'll be combining both events to be held at the Palm Desert Civic Center Park. So we are definitely open to any ideas that you guys would like to do to make this festival even bigger and better.
I
And
have
that's it.
one question. Is
Yes.
there a reason that it's always been held in March? Is that a specific significance? Because unfortunately, I know you've had similar issues where last minute improv, right? Wonderful to move it indoors, but this year the facilities weren't available to you.
That's correct. So actually, what was it, 2022, we moved it inside to the rec district. 2023 was great outside. And of course, the wind showed up this year. Originally, when we started off the festival, it was held up at the Visitor Center off of Highway 74. And we started it in February, actually. And we were like, why do we call the Wildflower Festival when there was not even actually wildflowers out yet? So that's when we decided to move it to the first weekend of March. We wanted to also avoid the tennis tournament that's here in the Valley. So it has been brought up to change the date. And I continue to fight and I continue to win that we're going to keep it the first weekend of March. We've also talked about moving it to 2 days, and we've decided that there's not really a benefit to move it to 2 days. So we're going to continue to keep it to 1 day and then continue to improve. We have a big park and we want to start expanding into more parts of the park.
That's a good idea. Maybe you don't get the same kind of wind tunnel. So thanks for that. I know, especially when you mentioned you've been getting a lot of questions or suggestions on that. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, thank you so
All right.
much. I know so
Thank
many
you.
people look forward to it, and the fact that you've got so many different activities, the way it keeps growing. So thank you for what you do. I imagine this is a giant undertaking.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the city's continued support of our organization.
Thank you. We move on to item number 10, city manager comments. Mr. Heilman.
Thank you, Mayor. For the first one, I'd like to ask Veronica Chavez to talk to council and the public about the upcoming town hall meetings that we'll be hosting.
Thank you. Good afternoon, honorable members of the city council. We just wanted to announce that we will, can you not hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay. Staff just wanted to announce that we will be holding some town hall meetings in late May. The meetings will be in various places to discuss the city's budget, the potential sales tax measure, and the long-term financial stability for the city. We want to hear our residents' priorities and their point of view. So we're inviting them to 4 different locations. On May 21st, it'll be the Living Desert at 12 p.m. On May 22nd, it'll be at Palm Desert Country Club at 12 p.m. and UCR at 5:30. And then on May 29th, it'll be here at City Hall in City Council Chambers at 5:30 p.m. Mailers like this will be going out the first week of May to all the residents. And so we just want to give them an opportunity to have that conversation with us. Thank
What
you.
was the date again for the date held at here in the chambers?
Chambers is May 29th.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have anything
I
else?
have one other item. I would like to take a moment to introduce Ivan Tenorio to the council. Ivan has recently joined our team as our new homelessness and support services manager. He has 7 years of extensive experience working with the homeless population regarding housing and resources to help their situations and to improve their lives. Ivan got his start in the nonprofit sector and recently we hired him from the Coachella Valley Association of Governments, where he managed the regional homelessness program. So Ivan, I'd like if you would mind coming up and saying hi to the council.
Good evening. How are we doing? Mayor, members of the council. Yeah, I'm very excited to be here, day 4. I've been sharing with some of my folks here that everyone's been overly welcoming, and it's been a really, really nice change. So I've enjoyed my time, and I'm looking forward to continue moving forward.
Thank you, Ivan.
All right, thank you.
Welcome to Team Palm Desert. We're happy to have you.
I have nothing further, Mayor. Thank you.
We move on to item number 11, mayor and council member reports and requests for action. Let's start with Council Member Truby.
Actually, nothing to report this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I have a couple things. I'll take your time. I was able to attend, as did many of our directors and team members, the Palm Springs Vendor Fair, which is a brainchild of Mayor Bernstein. And it was an excellent presentation to take the mystery out of doing business with the government. So our local vendors feel comfortable and we can do more business with our local vendors at the government level. It seemed very successful. I know everybody did a great job. And it's a great idea, and that's from Palm Springs Mayor Bernstein, and we have to thank him for that. Also, I went to a luncheon for the College of the Desert, and it was highlighting their architectural program. They have an outstanding architectural program. You do a couple years at COD, and then they work with Cal State Pomona or Cal Poly Pomona, excuse me, to finish up the program. And one of our planning commissioners he graduated Palm Desert High, went to College of the Desert for a year, then went on to Colorado to get his architectural degree, and now is a major partner in one of our major local architectural firms. So it shows how successful those programs at College of the Desert truly are. I was up in Sacramento the last couple days, really working to get the regional early action planning funds kept in the budget. And these were funds that were originally put in the budget in 2021, and they help us plan for the housing we need so badly. A lot of those funds have already been committed through the Southern California Association of Governments. We need to keep those funds, so that we can do the planning necessary, so we don't have more homelessness or any other crummy situations. We have such potential in Palm Desert with workforce housing, with our educational opportunities, and with all the employment we have. So we worked on that. We seemed successful in the early action budget. It was not cut out, but we'll see what happens in the May revise. We worked on also the regional housing needs assessment process, just to make it more transparent, more understandable, and more accountable to all the jurisdictions. And I do want to mention that I went to our concert in the park on the 18th. Was it Rhythm in Palm Desert, did we call it, or what do we call it? Desert Rhythm, so close. Desert Rhythm, we unveiled or announced a wonderful young man, Windsor, who did great music, and it was by taking the biorhythms from desert plants and then using them to perform music. And I know that sounds outlandish. It was wonderful, and it was a free concert. I only heard good things, and we filled the park. So those are just a few of the things going on in Palm Desert, but we're working for more always. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kelly?
I am privileged to serve as a council liaison to the Board of the Joslyn Senior Center. I want to let you all know that the Joslyn has been successful in securing a grant from Desert Healthcare District to address senior isolation. And their very compelling research demonstrates that isolation on the part of seniors, or anyone, quite frankly, has the same adverse health impact as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. That's quite startling. The Joslyn has extensive programs to help people through their wellness center and Meals on Wheels. So if you have a neighbor, relative, friend who could use services to overcome isolation, please visit the Joslyn and learn more. I have one request for action. Some residents are concerned about the closure of the Rite Aid on 111 and the announced bankruptcy of 99-cent stores, potentially affecting another store in the same shopping center. Both these are the product of national issues for those companies, as opposed to Palm Desert conditions, but it's obviously caught people's attention that there's a double impact in that shopping center. So I know our economic development team is always engaging with property owners. It would be helpful, I think, to have a report perhaps in the weekly administrative report about initiatives where that shopping center is concerned, so the council can communicate with concerned folks. That's all.
Thank you, Councilmember Nestande.
No comments this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. As a mayor pro tem said, I'll take up your time. We had the coffee with the mayor. It was on a Saturday, the 19th, and it was pretty well attended. We had Burtec and we had Friends of the Desert Mountains sharing information. There was a giveaway of some compost. There were saplings that were given away, and it was great to have these conversations. It just was more of a town hall and a give and take. And we even had residents from other cities because they know that Palm Desert leads the way with the environment. And kudos to Mr. Randy Chavez and all of his staff. The praise for the innovation to use palm mulch to put that on top of the blowing sand, residents and visitors were extremely impressed. So kudos to you and your team. One of the other topics that came up was on conservation. We discussed the initiatives and the encouraging of using native landscape. And on that topic, there was a lot of opposition to projects that are very water intensive and specific opposition to desert surf. I attended the open call at the McCallum Theater, and Mr. Richard Caldera, a 14-year-old Desert Hot Springs resident, took the top two major prizes, and he is self-taught from YouTube. And where I think a lot of times we say people need to get off their phones and these kids and their devices, but it was very rewarding to see that. And Miss Lucy Arnaz was the presenter. It was a very cool event. This week we had, switching from such great vibes to not so great vibes, there was a vigil here in the Civic Center Park from the district attorney as part of National Crime Victim Rights. And we read the names of some of the victims, and we had a lot of the local representatives or elected officials, and the chaplain for RSO gave some very moving words, and it's a reflection on how lucky we are to have our loved ones close and the impact on our first responders that they grieve too. They see a lot of very difficult things that you can't unsee. And that was very somber, but much needed reality. I also was in Sacramento attending the League of California, the City Leaders Summit, and some of the conversations also were on REAP and speaking with the legislators to say, we need the funding, we need it regionally. And I think that we impressed the staff that we met with from Assemblymember Wallace's office, because we had an elected official from Calimesa, from Banning, and Indian Wells, and we were able to advocate how this money is not just for one city, the way that we collaborate, the impact, and again, telling the story of why this is so essential. I had a lengthy conversation with State Senator Rosalicia Choabo, and she's already signed on and approved REAP. So we talked a lot about Cal State Palm Desert and how we need to make that a priority, and also advocating for the passenger rail system. All of these things that are a regional impact, I think, give us a greater chance of success because the return on investment is greater. And then there were some great sessions. And much appreciation to our clerk. A lot of the best practices that were highlighted are already things that you do. So thank you for helping our meetings run smoothly and bringing so many facilitating a lot of these sessions. There was a conversation on participating by Zoom. And since we do have people watching on Zoom, I think it's important that in some cities, they are saying that we need to remind people that participating on Zoom is a privilege, it's not a right, and that cities do prefer people to make public comments in person, and if you can't, by writing. So that was one of the considerations on how to manage Zoom. Another discussion, again, being a city that's very proactive with the environment, we talked about the approach to the zero emissions goals and moving city fleets to that and the reality of how likely is that to happen. Can our grid sustain that? They mentioned the city of LA alone uses 1 gigawatt of power daily, and that's the equivalent of powering 100,000 homes for a month. And there's legislation to see if we can push it out another 10 years. let's see, and an important one for people to know, SB 54 that's coming about is looking at the amount of waste that we have, and where we've had the CRV, you pay your nickel for whichever bottle that you're using, to put that burden on the people that make the bottles and make the plastic, so we don't have that impact. They would have to be more responsible, and the move to eliminate, again, the plastic bottles, to encourage people to use their own, and how to find that balance, that sometimes you just need to buy one on the spot. So we'll keep an eye on that, especially because I said nationally, 75% of the polls show that people approve the ban, and 10 states have already instituted as a mandate. There were sessions on the use of artificial intelligence and how it can be used to help things along, and how cities are adapting and putting policies into place, and where the security concerns are. So there's a lot of best practices to learn from other cities. It was very, very valuable. And a fun event to conclude my report. On Saturday, there will be an autism event at the Civic Center Park in Indio. I've spoken with the organizers, and last year they had bike giveaways for our loved ones with different needs, and they had one for every person. They ran out of bikes and someone came and bought more. The objective is inclusion, acceptance, and they have 2 bounce castles, one for the neurotypical kids to have their fun, and the other for kids that need to adapt to how they will encounter and engage. So thank you for listening to my lecture on what's been going on. And from there, we move on to item number 12, non-agenda public comments. And I please have Sue Townsley step forward.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. My name is Sue Townsley. I live in Cathedral City. I am here to thank the city of Palm Desert. It's just that simple. April is Jazz Appreciation Month, deemed by the Smithsonian. April 30th is International Jazz Day, a partnership between the Herbie Hancock Institute and UNESCO. A Great Day in Harlem is the iconic famous photograph taken in 1958, gathering 57 jazz musicians for a moment in time. There have been several Great Day photos since. Great Day in Cleveland, New Orleans, Chicago, Seattle, London, Paris, and I worked on the Great Day in LA in 2008. I moved to the Coachella Valley and learned it had never participated in a Great Day photo, nor in a video posted on the International Jazz Day site. This is the 3rd year that Alan Carballo, Eve Evans, and I have put Coachella Valley on the UNESCO Jazz Map. I had tried for a while to make this project a reality. And it wasn't until I met Jeff Corbin, who is the CEO of the Cathedral City Senior Center. If you don't know him, you should. He's a dynamo. He, as you can imagine, he's a CEO of a nonprofit, so fundraiser is his middle name. And yet I mentioned this project and he said, let's do it. So the reason I'm here is to state that I sent an email to all the city clerks in the Coachella Valley just for their endorsement. I wasn't asking for funding. I was only asking to post their logos along with our press releases and announcements and so forth. I thought it would enhance the importance of documenting our local musicians to the world. And in the end, Palm Desert is the only city that responded. And I just can't thank you enough. Alan, you'll see him in a minute, but he is a videographer and he has posted the video that will be seen worldwide. And it's only Cathedral City and Palm Desert at the end, our logos, and it's important. And I just want to thank you. The whole thing has been disappointing about the other cities.
I do apologize. Your 3 minutes are up and I cut everybody off at 3.
Well then, okay, but thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next comment is from Mr. Alan Carvalho.
Good evening. I just wanted to echo what Sue said. Thank you so much. And I think we just have a video to show. Thank you.
The Coachella Valley and this whole Southern California area to do this, to memorialize all the live musicians that are here, and let everybody know what they've done and put faces behind the music that you've been listening to here in the Valley is very important.
Make a nice historical moment in Palm Springs musical history. I play jazz, I play the saxophone, clarinet, and flute. I'm from Chicago, and I spend half a year in Chicago and half a year in Palm Springs.
In the community. I've been looking at that photograph for 30 years, thinking that's so cool. And so to do it here, it's a really great community building idea.
We spoke many, many months ago about doing something like this, and it is in her heart. This is what she wanted to do.
In 2020, I won the Association of Fundraising Professionals Volunteer of the Year.
I want to present these to you from all of us. From all of us. Thank you very much. What a pleasure.
The photo that was taken earlier was inspired by a great day in Harlem, which was taken in 1958. There are many great day cities around the country, and even a couple of them around in other countries. But Coachella Valley had never participated, so now we have a great day in Coachella Valley.
When you kiss me, fever when you hold me tight. Fever in the morning, fever all through the night.
I'm from what they call the legendary Laws family, and I've been singing for over 50 years.
My name is Hope Diamond, and I am the producer, the co-producer, and the artist relations for the Palm Springs Women's Jazz Festival. There's amazing jazz, blues artists here in the desert.
Thank you very much again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was great to see. Our next speaker is Patrick Cameron.
Good day, everybody. Council, Mayor Pro Tem. My name is Patrick. Excuse me. And I stand here today to announce the formation of a coalition that is set to have a major impact in our community. This is the Cannabis Workers Coalition. Our coalition is driven to uplift and empower the members of the cannabis industry. We recognize the importance of standardized training across various sectors within this industry, including cultivation, manufacturing, dispensing, delivery, and safety protocols. These trainings are not only essential for the well-being of workers, but also for the safety and integrity of the communities we serve. And we invite all of you to participate in an open dialogue with us and to partner in these trainings. One of our primary objectives is to advocate for the allocation of cannabis tax revenue for the benefit of cannabis workers. It's disheartening to witness cities providing tax breaks to large corporations while simultaneously burdening the cannabis industry with heavy taxes. This has a direct impact on the livelihoods of workers such as ourselves. Now, the federal illegality of cannabis work leaves us vulnerable to some predatory lending practices. We're excluded from essential financial services such as FHA loans and often find ourselves at the mercy of exploitative lenders. Our tax dollars should be used to establish, oversight mechanisms that protect both workers and consumers within the industry. Mistreatment of employees within some cannabis businesses is unacceptable. Workers are often coerced into producing products that they wouldn't consume themselves, and this goes against our ethics and our values. Many of these businesses operate without labor peace agreements, leaving workers unaware of their rights and vulnerable to exploitation. Turning a blind eye to this is not okay. Now, I just wanted to say that our coalition is committed to advocating for the rights and well-being of the cannabis workers. We seek to bring about positive change through standardized training, fair allocation of tax revenue, and the establishment of labor peace agreements. And we invite you all to participate in creating a cannabis industry that both values and respects its workers. And that's really all I have for you guys today. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you. I'd like to follow up with you on that. Next is Mr. Brad Anderson.
Hi, Brad Anderson. I currently live in the city of Ransom Rose. I just wanted to, I guess, voice my opinion once again concerning your study session meetings. As I can see today, you have a different agenda for that meeting. I just want to implore, just not beg, but just follow California common best practices and have the public be able to participate live, just like I'm doing now. With public testimony at that meeting. I know you don't allow that for whatever reason, just to maybe make the meeting go smoother and faster, probably. I think I was actually spoken to me, maybe not that way, but yeah, in that fashion anyway. I just want to, like today, I was talking about stormwater. I could say I'm an expert in stormwater and the water basins and so forth of collecting that stormwater runoff and the catch basin screens. I'm well aware of Palm Desert screens and how they work on certain catch basins. I fear that whole premise, I mean, just to alert everybody, of stormwater runoff and pollution and so forth, will probably be a way of collecting further monies in the future as in tax revenue, just like they do in back east. So that's just something to look out for. But again, I just want to implore you to look at allowing public participation, because your agenda even speaks about submitting written testimony. So it's kind of a double standard if you're going to do that and not allow people to testify in person, because we have some people may voice their opinions better in person than in written form. I'm just opposite. So anyway, and I guess the mayor was talking earlier about Zoom being not being a requirement of the city, and I agree. If people really want to be heard, they should be in person. But again, the whole Zoom aspect is really set up for the council, the 2449, I believe it is, AB, the law that's in effect now to allow council members. And really what I'm speaking today, what I speak at these council meetings are I guess I'm requesting to have public participation submitted or just regain what we lost before COVID, because we have free speech, I want to say, is under attack, but it's been depleted since COVID by AB 2449 and other laws similar. And I'll leave you at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I make that comment I shared earlier about or if you would like to make that comment
Regarding
the First Amendment and the Brown Act?
I'm not able to speak on that one, but when it does come to the study sessions are meetings in which staff is conveying information to the city council and receiving initial feedback. But at those meetings, never does the city council take formal action or a final action on any of the items on the agenda. And so that is compliant with the Brown Act to be able to conduct those kinds of sessions without requiring public comment. However, I did respond to Mr. Brad Anderson and let him know that, one, he's always welcome to submit written comments in advance of the meeting, so you would have that available to yourself, as well as he has the opportunity to speak on the study session items under the non-agenda public comments of the regular meeting.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the clarification for anyone watching at home. Do we have any comments online?
I'll read the instructions for those on Zoom. If you want to participate in public comment, please click the raise hand button on your computer or smartphone. If you're calling in by your phone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. And when called upon, press *6 to unmute yourself. And Madam Mayor, we have no public comment for non-agenda items.
Thank you very much. We now move on to the consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered routine and may be approved by one motion. The public may comment on any of the items on the consent agenda with 3-minute time limit. Individual items may be removed by the City Council for separate discussion.
I will move the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion passes 5-0.
We move on now, after consent, to item 14, the action calendar. The public may comment on individual action items within the 3-minute time limit. Speakers may utilize one of the 3 options listed on the first page of the agenda. You're looking at item 14A, introduce an ordinance adding chapter 9.71 to Title 9, the Public Peace, Morals, and Welfare of Palm Desert Municipal Code, establishing regulations prohibiting the unlawful possession of catalytic converters. We do have one public comment. Would you like that comment before or after?
The staff presentation and then public comment, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. What I have to present today is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Desert establishing regulations prohibiting the unlawful possession of catalytic converters in the city. So this will be the agenda. We'll cover the catalytic converters, ordinance overview, and staff recommendation. Catalytic converters are an exhaust emissions control device located between the exhaust manifold and the muffler of an automobile. Its purpose is to convert most of a vehicle's emissions into less harmful byproducts, which ultimately improves both air quality and vehicle performance. As part of their construction, catalytic converters contain valuable materials such as platinum, palladium, and rhodium. These precious metals can be valued at several $1,000s per ounce on the recyclables market. The citizens of the City of Palm Desert have experienced rising catalytic converter thefts from automobiles over the past several years, with Palm Desert averaging 6 catalytic converter thefts a month during the 2023 year. Catalytic converter thefts are on the rise because individuals are incentivized to commit catalytic converter thefts for multiple reasons. There's currently no law requiring individuals to provide proof to law enforcement as to how they obtain catalytic converters in their possession. This limits law enforcement's ability to protect the public by preventing catalytic converter thefts and seizing suspected stolen catalytic converters when there is no identifiable victim present. As a result, preventing and punishing these crimes at present is nearly impossible due to the ease and speed with which catalytic converter thefts can be committed and the difficulty of tracing a particular catalytic converter back to its prior owner, the victim, because catalytic converters typically have no identifying markers. Following the city council's request, staff were able to present this ordinance to the Public Safety Committee, who approved to move forward with a recommendation to the city council for review. Regulating possession of detached catalytic converters will help better achieve deterrence, establish sanctions, provide indirect justice, and minimize the time spent investigating and deterring catalytic converter thefts. By regulating the possession of detached catalytic converters will better protect its citizens, their property, and their community. Regulating possession of detached catalytic converters neither contradicts nor duplicates the statutes adopted by the legislator on the topic of catalytic converters. This ordinance is necessary to provide the city and the Riverside County Sheriff's Department with clear legal authority to better protect the public and deter this criminal activity. And that will conclude my presentation.
Thank you very much. Now, should we take comment or is it time for discussion? Okay, do we have any comments online before I know, forget
I
that
do,
one?
Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Daryl Terrell.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Council. My name is Daryl Terrell. I'm not speaking to you as a City or Moreno Valley Planning Commissioner, but a Moreno Valley resident. I want to thank you for your consideration of this ordinance. These thieves have no boundaries and no conscience. They operate in every neighborhood throughout your city and beyond. People go months without the vehicles that they rely on for work, to dropping off their kids at school, to visiting loved ones, and paying for the bills and waiting for the park, then waiting for the repairs, really having no idea when you'll be getting your car back makes this crime more impactful than just a price on the invoice. While it is a crime to steal a catalytic converter, this crime cannot be enforced unless your deputies is able to locate the victim, which is nearly impossible due to the lack of identifying markers to link a stolen catalytic converter to the victim. While there has been recent legislative efforts to address this issue, it is not good enough. Currently, state law AB 641 allows a person to have up to 9 dismantled catalytic converters without having an automotive dismantler permit through licensing, meaning that if they had 8 or under dismantled catalytic converters and your deputy stopped them, there were no identifying marks on them where the deputies could identify a victim. The thief could have a hacksaw in the back of their vehicle, and it wouldn't be a lot the deputies would do. Under this proposed ordinance before you, if a thief is found in possession of one dismantled catalytic converter without proof of ownership, they will go to jail. That's why I call this one and you're done ordinance, in contrast to the current 8 you skate state law AB 641. This proposed ordinance, you will bridge the gap between state law AB 6041 and like state law AB 6041, it will allow your deputies to take enforcement actions regardless of whether a thief is in possession of 1 or 9. In other words, the first 8 victims will no longer be ignored. By adopting this proposed one and done ordinance, it will ensure every victim receiving justice, and it's one step closer to ensuring each of our cities within the county are on the same page and holding these accountable, because it's time for us as cities to do what the legislature has done and holding these criminals accountable with consequences. So I thank you for considering this ordinance.
Thank you very much. We have another speaker, Mr. Brad Anderson.
Thank you very much. My name's Brad Anderson. I currently live in the city of Anson Mirage. I'm going to take another stance on this. I've spoken at the Riverside County Board of Supervisors concerning this matter too, and I respect the other speaker over the line and his comments and his goal to achieve this, and he will. But I'm concerned because this making everybody a criminal that happen to have these, and I agree. I think the premise is incorrect. Police or investigators could determine these are stolen catalytic converters it's very unlikely that the police are going to pull over somebody that has, what, 8 or 9, let him go, or something he was saying. I reference when I was a kid, AM, FM radios were a big thing. People were stealing those all the time. And we have aftermarket radios at that time, just like we have aftermarket catalytic converters. And I'm sure if you had more than one detached units, the police would probably arrest you or at least cite you. And I'm sure the catalytic converter are the same issue. And we have all these license plate readers now, and these people are using sawzalls, these battery sawzalls, to cut off these catalytic converters. Just like he said, it was just a matter of seconds and they're gone. And it's like any crime, but you're making people that maybe have 2 or maybe have 1 that's driving home with it. It's unlikely. I agree. It's very unlikely that this will happen. But I don't think this is the right approach to this type of crime. And they were talking about the coal communities earlier, and apparently this is an issue for that. And I go to those meetings, and I never heard this topic be brought up, and it's probably on the agenda. But it's even the last agenda either. And that meeting was canceled, and that's a meeting, that's a community council that nobody really knows about, has a lot of authority when it comes to license plate readers and all this other stuff that goes through these different cities, Indian Wells and Palm Desert and Councilman Ross. Again, I'm just against this. We already have a law in the state, and well, I'm just repeating myself, but I don't think this is the right avenue. And that's all I have, I guess. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anderson. Is there anyone else? Okay. Having concluded public comment, any comments from my peers? Comments, questions? Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you to staff for bringing this proposal forward. The speaker on Zoom is 100% correct. The harm to residents from this kind of theft far exceeds the value of the catalytic converter because of the cost of repairs, the inconvenience, and the other shock of coming out to go to work and discovering the crime. We want our officers to have the very, very best tools to address this crime wave, if you will, because 6 per month is 6 too many. I would be pleased if we had the strictest ordinance in the state, because word would get out to steal your catalytic converter someplace else. This proposed ordinance is 100% fair. Someone in possession of a catalytic converter simply needs to have one of several alternative ways to demonstrate lawful possession. So I move adoption of staff's recommendation.
I'd like to second so that I can make some comments. And I just want to bring to light something, and it was either in 2012 or 2014 when our then Assemblyman Brian Nestande put forth, authored a bill that held reclamation owners and operators accountable for receiving the catalytic converters. So he sealed up that part of the process and attempted to do so. This then answers the other part before it even gets to the owner operator of a reclamation yard. And our then Assemblyman was a friend of the people, and he was a friend to law enforcement, and he wanted to make sure that he protected both. And that was what that bill is for. And this bill closes the loop. So my second is already in for this.
And a reminder to rest in peace to former Assemblymember Nastande as his work continues as part of his legacy. Any additional comments? I would like to share the sentiments. This really does close the gap and protects our families. I've seen the recent evolution, and again, is very well intended, does leave a lot of gaps. And this would let people know we are zero tolerance. And I think we're making the right move. So thank you again. Is there a motion? Oh.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 14B, request for out-of-state travel for Mayor Quintanilla to attend the NALEO Annual Conference in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Madam Mayor and City Council, it's just that, so I'll be brief. This is a request for out-of-state travel for Mayor Quintanilla to attend the National Association of Latino Elected and Appointed Officials Annual Conference in June in Las Vegas. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
I do have a question. I read through this and, last year in the question where it said, is this a one-time request? You marked one-time request. Now, this time it's a one-time request. I think as you have set forth that this is extremely important information for our community, it serves us best not to only have one of our council members go, and to rotate council members would be more effective. And having one person having information is good. Having two people on this council having the information is better. And if acceptable to Councilmember Truby, I would propose that he attend the conference and see the value of it and report back. And that would be my idea.
I would be happy to.
I can support that motion. So it would be the mayor and Councilmember Tribby going. Okay.
But I'm not suggesting the mayor go because it is an expensive, it's $2,500. Now, I do see that the mayor has previously made reservations before this. But I believe that we should have somebody else go. It's an expensive conference. It's not an inexpensive conference. And I think we should have another person go and rotate through the council members and see where we go with that.
Any comments, Councilmember Kelly?
I would appreciate your input while I'm pondering this idea.
Thank you. I've seen some of the questions that were posed in our memo, and part of the questions were in regards to balance and funding and budgets. It seems a little strange to say that you would want someone who is not a member already. So that would mean the conference would be more expensive for a non-member to attend. And the conference is for an affinity group, and where Councilmember Truby would absolutely be welcome to attend. I think it would be actually unfair and targeting that. I think it would be best to say maybe we should revise the policy to allow out-of-state travel instead of saying, well, you went this year, how about we have someone else go to NALEO? I think the whole point is that NALEO is the National Association of Latino Elected and Appointed Officials. The type of networking that happens there is strengthened by existing connections with other Latino elected officials, and the way that we are able to interact. The accompanying documents in my request show that it is a conference that is already aligned. The topics are aligned with what we are discussing and our agenda for how we move the city forward. And as a matter of fact, on March 26th, a lot of these topics were included. So if if I will go ahead and read to show the importance of these topics. If they're important enough for the city of Palm Desert to write to the Honorable Alex Padilla, the United States Senator, in support of a request for California State University to receive $1 million in a community project funding to establish an artificial intelligence and virtual reality research training center, and $430,000 to bolster the intersegmental nursing street medicine program in the Valley. We're looking through the specialized skills in AI and VR to highlight the technologies that could replace 80% of the workforce task. The esteemed cybersecurity workforce development program at Cal State is AI-driven security solution and VR-based training for a skilled workforce. So that's part of the consideration on AI and technology. And then it continues, moreover, data from the 2022 point-in-time report reveals alarming statistics regarding homelessness in the Coachella Valley, with 1,980 individuals considered homeless, a third of whom were unsheltered. The urgent issue is providing healthcare and access to the growing homeless population, and the program is staffed by skilled nurses equipped with mobile medical units that reach those that are unable to access traditional healthcare services. It says, for these reasons, I respectfully urge you to consider Cal State San Bernardino's congressional directed spending request of $1 million for the AI and virtual reality research and retraining center and $430,445 for the nursing street medicine program, equipment serving the Coachella Valley. We're deeply grateful for your continued support and advocacy for the community, and we believe that these investments will not only benefit residents, but also contribute to the overall prosperity of our region. One of the connections that I made last year has, I remember even hearing a lot of praise from Mayor Pro Tem Harnick for the discussion on CISA. And CISA is the most recent addition or under the Department of Homeland Security. It is a cybersecurity infrastructure and security administration, and they will send representatives out at zero cost. They are bringing an individual to speak at our chamber breakfast. They will be giving tools for our community. These are the services that we need to offer if we say we are a business-friendly city to help protect our businesses. These are introductions and connections that come from some of these personal networks. Those of us, I mean, all of us here attend conferences, and we know that when we establish these best practices and we learn from one another, a lot of times that comes from following up with people that we have connected with or are following up. So I respectfully request to support the initial proposition that I attend. If Councilmember Truby would like to join me, absolutely. I think it would be great for him to come along and see the value of this, but I continue to see that this is the request at a one-time request. That's for that budget session. It doesn't say, I want to attend today and I will never attend again. It says one time, as in that is the one-time request during that budget year. So I don't understand that the need would be to rotate to a different council member when perhaps it would be a better investment to say maybe we should revise the policy to allow a council member to go to an out-of-state conference per year. Yes.
Let me suggest a different possible outcome. We restrict out-of-state travel for council members because there was a time, quite frankly, when it was excessive and residents expressed umbrage. Perhaps rightly so. We have extra funds available in the conference budget this year, largely because a couple of us had schedule conflicts for the annual League of Cities conference. Hopefully, will be able to attend in the next financial year. So don't reduce the budget for conferences. We never want to be quick to spend down a budget line just because money's still available toward the end of the financial year. Because yes, there are some accounts like this one where we've underestimated expenses, but there are also accounts with the opposite consequence, where we've had to overspend. So we count on some amount of underspending to help things balance out. With all that context, there is a second out-of-state conference, coincidentally also in Las Vegas, in the same month as this conference. It's the ICSC conference, which also entails some significant expense, but it's quite worthwhile because of the opportunity to interact with developers and sources of new business. Mayor Quintanilla, I would put this to you. We currently have 3 council members plus staff planning to go to that ICSC conference, including yourself. So we're extremely well covered there. It strikes me it might be appropriately deferential to the sentiments our residents have expressed about out-of-state travel in the past. If you might forego attending ICS to enable attending the NALEO conference. I know you've been able to attend ICSC in the past, so you've benefited from that experience. So I would put that question to you, which I think might, as I said, be a good way of respecting the past sentiments expressed by residents.
That was actually going to be part of another discussion that I would be willing to look at where the allocations are. So that is, I think, a very logical, reasonable, sound suggestion. That's perfectly fine with me.
Thank you. If that's the case, I would support approving this request.
I could second that motion then.
I have some comments. There were comments made about why it's important to go. That is not the debate. The debate is only having one person doing it, one council person making the connections. That is not an efficient or an effective way to run a council. It's just not. And to say that because it's only for Latinos does not fulfill the objective, as you said before, about another event in Indio for autism, where the objective is inclusion. And that's not inclusion. And, you know, our resolution for the city council of the city of Palm Desert states very clearly that what we do is reassure its residents and visitors that Palm Desert is a place that welcomes people of all backgrounds and cultures, celebrating diversity and inclusion. It values all members of our community, including but not limited to all religions, ancestries, and ethnicities, as well as people of any disability, gender, sexual orientation, immigration status, or gender identity, and will not tolerate any prejudice, racism, bigotry, hatred, bullying, and violence towards any group within our community, and rejects any attempt to intimidate, threaten, or otherwise marginalize member of our community. For us to support something that is solely for Latinos, as you have said, is not the Palm Desert way. It just isn't. As far as cybersecurity, which I think that's a great program that the Chamber is putting forth, we have a vibrant cybersecurity program at COD with ample resources for somebody to present. So to go to New York City to come back with one program for the Chamber that's not the ROI we're looking for. So my feeling is it's not a swapping out. It's not if lose it or use it or lose it sort of a situation or swapping funds around to make it okay. It's really just not okay. So those are my thoughts on that. We do have information within California that's not solely for Latinos. It is for all people who represent a community, for all people who are trying to do their best to serve a community, for all people who are trying to learn all they can about serving a community. So those are my thoughts on this. Thank you.
I would like to find at what point I said it's only for Latinos. In fact, I said that Councilmember Truby would be welcome. I simply stated that for me, the experience of collaborating with people that I have already met or through communities, at no point did I say that it would be exclusionary. There are a lot of people that attend. That's why I said if he would like to go, that's absolutely wonderful. But that doesn't mean that I would forego my application and my request to still attend. And while I wouldn't quite understand the methodology of how we would measure a return on investment from my trip last year, when we look at how would that counter a small business that did not go bankrupt because they were subject to ransomware. There's no way that that could be quantified. These are services that are offered, and having a presentation from someone at College of the Desert is not the same as having the federal resources from the Department of Homeland Security. These are the regional directors that are coordinating through the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Administration. It's not the same as saying, I'm going to go to the urgent care to see what's wrong versus I'm going to go to a specialist for my condition. It's very, very different. And I think that it doesn't say that there's any sort of discrimination. And where I understand and appreciate that we have the, where our municipal code and our ordinances are all about inclusion, this conference has no purpose or intent of excluding anyone. It's about bringing and pooling the resources of people that understand one another in a different context. The same way that when we have within SCAG, the Southern California Association of Governments, we have SoCal. That is where Southern California cities and officials are meeting because we understand that we have different needs, whether it be geographic, economical, there are different needs that we have. When we look at the Riverside County Division of the League of Cities, because we know that we have different needs. For the first time, there was a joint meeting of the County of Riverside and County of San Bernardino, and that was incredibly strengthening to see where our needs overlap. So this is, to me, the kind of situation where we can look at creative solutions from a different perspective from people that attend that conference. I think that Councilmember Kelly has made the suggestion that I was already under consideration, that, you know, I think that ICSC is a great opportunity. I think it has a lot of opportunities of what we've come back with. And unfortunately, some of those ideas still haven't really materialized. So sometimes maybe we're not getting the same return on investment for ICSC. I think that it almost seems prejudicial in that sense of saying, here is an opportunity for you to go and for the city to support your advancement in leadership, and say, you know what, I think this is not a good opportunity for you to go. Let's send somebody else. I think it'd be great if perhaps each year we would have the option to either go to ICSC or another conference that is out of state. How many years have we already proved going to ICSC, which is out of state? For this one, I am looking at every opportunity to make this as economic as possible. I'm even driving because it's cheaper than flying. Staying at the conference there, using their block rates. I did book it in advance because I didn't want to risk that there would be all entirely sold out and have to stay somewhere in the vicinity that's more expensive, or be further away and have to spend more in mileage. So that's, I continue to stand firmly in my request that Naleo is a worthwhile investment, and a trip, not a trip, a conference that is worthwhile.
May I make a comment now? Okay, so here is my opinion. Since the mayor has already made plans and we're in this current year, and Councilmember Kelly has made a motion and I have made a second that we move forward, but perhaps after this year, that staff looks into the council member travel, and perhaps it's that we each have the opportunity to pick one conference of our choice, whether it's in-state or out-of-state, and we make sure it fits within the budget. And we, because there's 5 of us on the council, and we all, need to do our best to get along, and maybe it would go a long way if we acquiesce or give the latitude for each council member if it fits in the budget and it's not extravagant travel.
So is that a substitute motion?
Oh, no.
That would have to be,
That was me just rambling.
that would have to be a much longer conversation. I'm not on board with inviting everybody to pick a trip.
Yeah, and it's just the option, but,
Right.
and it's to be studied by staff.
So there's a lot of nuances to that. It would have to be a separate discussion. I think Councilmember Harnick has made some good points about the worth of an additional council member having exposure to the topics discussed there to evaluate them. I'm going to stick with the motion I made. It appears that there is still time for a second application to attend this conference if desired.
And I did second the motion already.
Yes.
So to clarify, the motion was to grant my request to go in addition to a second one?
No.
So because of what I recall you saying that you would consider making this or approving my attending Naleo if foregoing ICSC.
Correct.
So at this point, is it granting my permission to attend this, or was your motion to allow Councilmember Truby to attend and not take action on my request?
No. Sorry if I confuse things. My motion was to approve your request in appreciating your agreement to forego attending ICSC. We have a procedure in place that if someone wants to attend, they should complete the request form. I was simply observing that there seems to be time for any other council member who would like to attend this conference to complete the form for our next meeting.
Thank you. All right, I appreciate it. I do agree with Councilmember Harnick about, I like the idea of spreading the wealth. I'll be attending the ICSC for the first time this year, and I'm looking forward to being introduced to that forum and all I can learn there. Also, two other our thoughts. I'm not real comfortable with any group or any organization, forum, meeting, get together that is based on ethnicity, race, gender. I mean, if I've always used the test or put forward this idea to people, if I were to substitute Caucasian or white male, how would that go over? I'm not too well. You know, it does give the appearance of being exclusionary. Whether or not it is, it certainly gives off that appearance. However, I'd love to attend this conference, see what it's all about. And one other question for the mayor, you used an expression I've never heard before, affinity group. Just flesh that out for me, please. Thank you.
The affinity group is any type of collection of individuals with a commonality. I think it is something that we have found that is worthwhile when we recognize the gathering of a cultural group or any way in which people can identify the unique challenges that they face. This afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem Harnick and I attended the Luncheon for the Ophelia Project. That project is dedicated specifically to support young women. That project has been going on for, I think they said 21 years now, and have seen how many young women have gone through, have maintained the relationships with their mentors. There was one woman who said she reached out, that one of her mentees said that she saved her life. Being present and being there for one another is transformative. So I think that we have seen the value and the benefit of mentorship from people that have things in common. This is, I can understand where someone would say that they're uncomfortable with a gathering with a certain commonality. It doesn't mean that anyone is excluded. It doesn't mean this topic is only for these individuals. It is simply that some of the models that are presented are shifted through a different lens. That's the only difference, the lens in which they are presented to be something that someone can relate to with a different lens. Does that make sense in terms of affinity?
I have a few more comments. Because the topics that are addressed are important to our community. It's when it's taken that here's who's invited. And as it says, and I'm gonna go along with the group here, but I want to really be clear. Your letter says, I'm making a request to support to attend the nation's preeminent providers of nonpartisan professional development for Latino policymakers. And we're here for Palm Desert. This is about Palm Desert. It's not about you and your advancement in leadership. We really are here for Palm Desert. So those are my comments, and let's ask the question.
I think that, excuse me, I'm not ready to vote yet. I think that to say it's not about you now attempts to seem like it's a personal conversation that we're having about who will have a direct benefit. And that is by no means in any way what was presented in the document. That is the description of the organization. It does not say it is exclusive to. It refers to what created the organization and what has led to it. And if anything, this goes back to why I have fought so hard intensely hard to get the voter districts because it is the lack of perspective that has led to the need to understand that people of different backgrounds and different experiences live a very different life than everyone else. There is a great difference, and in gathering and recognizing the strength by gathering these individuals is part of it. So whether you want to say that essentially this is for one person, for one ethnic group, and it's discriminatory against another is absolutely untrue. It is untrue. There is a lack of facts that go into that statement. That is a perspective. That is not a fact.
I call for the question.
Motion passes 4-1 with Councilmember Truppi voting no.
We now move on to item 14C, adopt the Palm Desert Rail Station feasibility study.
Good evening, Mayor Quintanilla, members of the City Council. My name is Vanessa Mager, and I'm a management analyst in the Economic Development Department. Before you is a request to adopt the Palm Desert Rail Station feasibility study, including the Appendix B that was emailed to you earlier today. It also includes directing staff to submit the study to the Riverside County Transportation Commission, also known as RCTC, for their consideration to include in their Tier 2 study. In July of 2022, RCTC adopted a Tier 1 environmental impact statement and environmental impact report for the Coachella Valley San Gorgonio Pass Rail Corridor Service, which is a plan to extend daily passenger rail service to the Coachella Valley. The new rail service would provide a 144-mile connection to Los Angeles downtown Union Station, as well as a connection to the Metro and Metrolink system. This new rail service is a coordinated effort between RCTC, the California Department of Transportation, and the Federal Rail Administration. The Adoption Tier 1 plan explored potential rail stations for the Coachella Valley, including the current existing Palm Springs station, a new Mid-Valley location, and then a in-terminus new location in Indio or Coachella. With the adoption of the Tier 1 plan, RCTC announced that they would be conducting a Tier 2 study to identify specific rail stations, locations in the Coachella Valley, and provide environmental clearances for those identified locations. To enable the city to participate in the Tier 2 planning process and advocate for a future Mid-Valley station, the City Council yourselves approved a rail station feasibility study to be conducted in March of 2023. To assist, the city selected Kimley Horn and Associates to complete the study based on their familiarity with the Coachella Valley Rail Corridor and expertise in passenger and light and heavy rail studies. For the past year, Kimley Horn has worked to provide a complete citywide assessment of potential locations for a rail station in Palm Desert. This includes assessing the existing land uses, transportation network, demographics, topography, and economic conditions in Palm Desert. At this time, I would like to ask Daryl DePenser from Kimley Horn and Associates to provide a brief overview of the study that was included in your packets.
Thank you, Vanessa, and good evening to the council. All right, as you guys have seen, as we've been working through this study in different capacities, we came to this study really looking at this as an opportunity for more community building within the city of Palm Desert as a site of a potential future rail station connecting the valley to Los Angeles, especially with the amenities that you already have, the campus, the arena. This is a really opportunity to activate those things and really truly realize the potential they can bring the community. We did a lot of engagement as part of this study, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, and then how we actually came to a specific site of that we wanted to recommend for moving forward, and then some of the opportunities that we have as part of that station. So really, we focused on the part of the city between Cook Street area and Monterey Avenue. That's the only parts where along the rail corridor, we have existing vacant land that could actually accommodate that station. So we evaluated every single parcel of sufficient size as we move forward. And we really found that the best potential economic benefit and potential ridership, all that really came in that Cook Street area where we have the proximity to the university campus, the arena, and other facilities like that. Places a little further north towards Monterey, there just wasn't as many land uses to activate, and there was a little bit less potential for all that realization. So we met with the public on a couple of occasions during this process and asked them their opinions about the rail, and we tended to get a pretty enthusiastic response. We got a lot of really interesting questions, but a lot of people really wanted to use this service and were excited to see it coming. And most of our questions were, when is it going to start? When do we get to ride this train? And can I bring my dog? So we looked at all kinds of different amenities that people would want to have at the station. How do they want to access the station? We learned a little bit about people's feeling on Sunline and how well that could connect and how we could build those different opportunities to move forward, the different land uses and the types of opportunities people wanted to see in terms of amenities, restaurants, shops, and things that could be developed alongside that as part of the transit-oriented development that comes with the station. We also talked to several stakeholders. We talked to utilities. We talked to the Acrisure Arena. We talked to RCTC. We talked to Sunline and various others. We got support letters from 10 different agencies as part of this effort. The Sunline people in particular thought this would be an awesome opportunity to better connect the transit amenities in the valley, especially with the campus area, the arena, to create that mobility hub that they can use. They really appreciated the different variety of arrangements that we showed them, and they were able to help us decide which ones looked like the most potential for us to move forward with. And as you can see, we got some really good quotes from them as well as we move forward. So in terms of the actual site selection and how the different locations were evaluated, you can see those 6 locations on the map that are shown there. Those are the original ones that had enough space. So we were fairly quickly able to look at the various land uses around the station sites, their ability to be accessed, the local circulation around. And the Cook Street area had the most available roadway capacity to handle the traffic. It had the better amenities and a better mixture of different opportunities to move forward with. So we focused in on those sites. And then when we looked at the 3 of them that remained on Cook Street, we found that the first one was definitely a little awkward, C1, right at Cook Street. It was a little hard to see the station from the road. It was a bit of a strange shape, which would really constrain the station design. The C2 site was a little bit smaller as well. And the owner of the site has some development plans already. The C3 site really showed the most promise. It was the largest one. It had the best proximity to the arena and connection to the campus. So that was the one that we ended up recommending moving forward with. And this is one of the initial site designs that we were looking at to just show that potential. So the station site is up in the top. You can see the various parking areas, the building areas, and then anywhere gray is things that could potentially be developed into housing, retail, services, restaurants at that higher density supported by the rail station. We also have the potential to build a rail crossing over the freeway to better access the arena for golf carts, people walking. Longer term, we met with the CSUSB campus development community. They were very enthusiastic about the idea that we could activate that part of the campus land on the north side with some more uses that could potentially serve students better, make the whole area more economically competitive. And they were very open to potentially altering their plans to make that circulation between the campus and the station work a little bit better. Similarly, we looked at Gerald Ford Drive and opportunities to change that. As we know, it's not a completely built road right now. It's missing half of the eastbound direction that hasn't been built out yet. So there's a lot of opportunity that we can make that a much more pedestrian and bicycle friendly transit supportive corridor. So there's some designs in the plan that show that. And then as far as the actual station layout itself, the image on the bottom right, that's one of the ones that most of our stakeholders found the most interesting. Sunline really liked the bus loop that they could get in and out of. And our other discussions with the utilities, they felt like this respected the presence of gas, electricity lines, all that other stuff that goes through there. And the campus, again, really likes this site because it aligns well with some of their master planning. Looking at the top, The idea of the station is to be a very open, welcoming environment. So it's not like what you may have experienced if you used Amtrak at Palm Springs where you got off. The intention is this is a destination. You arrive at this station and you know that you've encountered somewhere you want to be. It's a resort feeling area. The connections to shuttles and things to other parts of the valley should be very seamless. You can access the casinos, the arena, and we'll have some discussion on what local amenities we can build here as well. The other thing that we heard a lot about was security. So having a well-lit place with security resources around and the ability to have private sector development investing in this area will all improve that condition as well. These are some sketches of what the station could look like from the team's visioning. So we have that center platform shown on the top. That's the preferred way for RCTC to run this station when we get the third rail alignment down the corridor. So that would mean we'd have the elevated bridge between the platform and the main station building, as is shown there. We have the opportunity to have some nice decorative landscaping, very Palm Desert style. And then the station plaza itself, we can have all the signage pointing which way you want to go. If you want to meet your shuttles, your buses, if you want to walk to the hotel on site, and then just the general look and feel, the boulevard with palm trees, and then supporting shops and amenities in the area. The real vision here is that this isn't strictly a rail station, it's actually a community center. So it's a place where residents of Palm Desert might go just to hang out. There's things to do here. And same thing for the university campuses. So we were trying to really activate all these things and bring them together. So in terms of some of the things that we're trying to tell RCTC about this and what the potential is just for rail ridership, the little table on the bottom, that's how much of the ridership we capture of existing travel. So it's very basic. That doesn't account for almost anything else because there hasn't been a proper transit model developed for this corridor yet. So we didn't want to go out on a limb and make things up, but we know that that's the very basic minimum that we'll capture without any of the other amenities put forward. When we mapped out the amenities around the station, the people where people live, the jobs that are there, the seats in the arena, the student body population, all those things, that's what those little dots on the top are representing. The darker the color, the more of that potential local station use there is. The number one location is in fact that Cook Street area. It scored the highest out of them all. As we moved further up towards the north end of Palm Desert, the scores fell off quite a bit. There's a lot of economic benefits that were calculated, and that was one of the features in the Appendix B that we added to the report. It's that we had an economist on our team that ran through and looked at some of the potential revenue capture that can go along with this station and the potential development that can accompany it. So a few of the snapshots here. There's an estimate of about 2 million per year in estimated capture just with various tax revenues and things that we can generate. It could encourage construction of up to 2,500 new units of housing, about 200 hotel rooms, and 23,000 square feet of retail space, just with that initial ridership estimate that could come through there. And then we have also 500,000 to 3 million new fiscal revenues just from job creation and other things that can go on with those potential activities. So didn't want to take too much of your time, but that's our summary, and if there's any questions.
Thank you very much.
Quickly, Mayor, just now upon receiving directive from the City Council, staff will promptly submit the study to RCTC for their consideration. We'd like to make note that RCTC has secured the funds to move forward with the Tier 2 study. Their estimated timeline is the end of the year is when they will start this study. They've also shared with us that the study could take anywhere from 2 to 6 years depending on environmental conditions and review. We'd like to make note that the submittal of the Palm Desert Rail feasibility study does not guarantee the city to be selected for the Mid-Valley stop, but we do believe that we have put together a compelling document that shows why Palm Desert would be the preferred site in the valley to help all of our community. Unfortunately, with the anticipated timeline of the Tier 2 study, we would just like to note that we feel that we will understand the selection of Palm Desert midway through the study. So it may be 2 to a few more years before RCTC gives us the go-ahead for our site. And then RCTC is expected to have rail service commenced in 2040. As RCTC moves along through the Tier 2 study, we will continue to stay connected with them and keep you all up to date as to the findings. And if you have any questions, myself and Daryl are here to answer anything.
Do we have any comments?
No public comments, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Comments?
It's fantastic. Everybody may want to say that in their own way. But I certainly move adoption.
It's very exciting. It would be such a win-win for our whole Coachella Valley. And I did have one question. Who is the competition? Is that with RCTC?
If you looked at the map, the Mid-Valley does include Cathedral City, Rancho Mirage, Palm Desert, and La Quinta.
Right.
At this,
Had they submitted plans, I guess, do they plan on submitting plans?
RCT has let us know that no one else has submitted plans at this moment. Doesn't necessarily guarantee that no one will, but at this point, no one else has.
Okay, that's actually good news for right now.
Is there a timeline of a cutoff of when it would be to apply? Would we know X city missed it and now we're only competing with a certain level of local cities?
I'm not sure that there is a deadline. It's looking more again at the environmental conditions. This report does a lot of the legwork for RCTC. And so we've been able to take a look at some of the existing conditions in the area. And luckily have been able to kind of select a site that doesn't have the limitations. RCTC also did make mention that they were grateful that we have started the community engagement process because that is something that they usually sometimes run into a little bump. So they have expressed their gratitude to the city for starting the process a little early for them.
Great news. A lot of gratitude to the staff that's taken time and our consultants. Thank you to Kimley Horn for keeping us appraised every step of the way. This has been a great project to follow, and absolutely, I think we're all in agreement that this is a good step. Other comments?
Did we have a motion?
One more comment.
Yeah, just yay. I'm so glad to see it come this far. Thank you.
Second?
Oh, that could be a second.
Motion passes 5-0.
Now we move on to item 14D, introduction of an ordinance of the City Council amending Chapter 2.74 of the Palm Desert Municipal Code to establish a Palm Desert Library Board of Trustees and Library Advisory Committee and making a finding of exemption under CEQA.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. Gary Schaefer, Director of Library Services for the City of Palm Desert. Today, we're recommending council take action. I'm literally repeating what the mayor just said to amend let me move the slide forward. To amend Chapter 2.74 of the Municipal Code in order to establish a Library Board of Trustees along with a 5-resident Library Advisory Committee with up to 2 alternates. Pardon me. Council's well aware of the timeline as you have all lived it, but this slide is really for the audience's sake. These are the steps that have been undertaken from council's first action on June 8th, 2023 towards the withdrawal from the Riverside County Library System through to last month's acceptance by the County Board of Supervisors of that withdrawal agreement. The recommendation from staff is that City Council act as the Library Board of Trustees and that council appoint an advisory committee made up of Palm Desert residents. We recommend the duties for the board, the committee, and for the library director. As far as the board is concerned, you would be charged with fiduciary and administrative oversight, establishment of policies and long-term plans. The committee would provide input on programming, space planning, monitoring, performance indicators, mentioned that, activities and outcomes. They would also help connect staff via their networks with community groups. The library director's role, let me go back. Apologies. Would obviously be to supervise the library staff, managing the library collections, implementing programs, and I would also supervise operations and apply your policies and oversee all procedures. Committee member terms align with other committees within the city. So in summary, the ordinance establishes the governance structure for the library in the form of the Board of Trustees, AKA City Council, and our advisory committee, which align with all of our public-facing departments. Most importantly, I believe, or we believe, it lays out a clear division of labor. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any comments, questions? Any questions online or any comments?
No public comment, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Sure thing.
Thank you, Gary. It's going along nicely. Appreciate all the work. I know we currently have the library task force.
Yes.
I suppose that'll be dissolved. I mean, it has to be in order for this new board of advisors to come in. How many more task force meetings do we plan to have?
So the plan would be each month, because we're now, as you know, 8 or so days away in the thick of it. So we do plan to have meetings in in May and June. Task force would basically dissolve on June 30, and this new advisory committee, provided it was put in place by council, July 1st.
Perfect. And this probably is a question more for staff, but this new library advisory committee, the timing will work out with our interviews that are upcoming here in May, I believe.
Yes.
So that's all, timeline works out perfectly.
Go ahead. The schedule for the interviews for the other boards and commissions is probably going to be full. So we're going to work with your council assistant in finding another date, probably in June, in order to accommodate these interviews.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I believe, as you're aware, City Clerk attended our last library task force meeting and encouraged those members, if they were interested, to please apply.
Any other comments? Well, I would like, oh, so sorry, please do.
I was just going to make a motion.
I just wanted to share that as I engage with the community and I get questions on that, there's mostly excitement. They want to know, they know that the summer is going to be the closure, and when it comes back, it's going to be a complete reimagination. Thank you for all of the work as things ramp up. I know you're about to get busier. Thank you for that significant undertaking that is going to transform our city and the services that we can offer. I can't say thank you enough for the work to you and your team. And I believe that there is a motion that was forthcoming.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
if I could just briefly interrupt. I do want to encourage anybody who is interested in the Library Advisory Committee to go to www.palmdesert.gov/volunteers with an S at the end. And that will take you directly to the page that has information about all of our boards and commissions, as well as an online application.
Thank you very much.
Move to approve.
I will second that.
Motion passes 5-0.
I'd personally like to thank you all for the support, and I would also like to thank the entire city staff who has just made a Herculean effort to make this happen. So thank you all.
That deserves applause as far as I'm concerned. Thank you. We move on to item 14E. Approve recommendations for University Dog Park parking and El Paseo mid-block crosswalks.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, City Council members. I'm Randy Chavez, Deputy Director of Public Works. And staff has prepared a brief presentation for the University Dog Park parking and El Paseo mid-block crosswalk recommendations you have before you. A quick summary, a study was conducted at the University Dog Park area due to overwhelming requests for more parking. There has been an increase in residential growth in the area. And the dog park, initially a neighborhood dog park, has become an amenity for many folks outside of the University Park area. Currently, there are 13 parking spaces, 2 of which are for ADA use, and that is not sufficient for the dog park users' needs. And also, a thing to note is on-street parking is not is prohibited. So staff looked at several options on how to remediate this, and staff recommends to make on-street parking available. This will entail removing the median, diverting bicycle traffic onto the sidewalk, constructing a mid-block crosswalk with flashing beacon. And this will also provide 42 spaces in addition to the 13 that are there. So that's staff recommendations for the University Dog Park area. The El Paseo raised mid-block crossings, a brief summary of what's there now. There are currently 3 existing locations. Staff recommends keeping the 3 existing locations, but we need to replace the flashing beacons that are there because they're non-ADA compliant. And staff also recommends replace or adding a bulb out to the crosswalk on Larkspur because that is also not ADA compliant. Staff also looked at adding 3 additional crosswalks on El Paseo. However, only 2 areas are viable. Go back here. The areas that are viable are El Paseo between Alcatel Drive and Sage Lane, and between Larkspur and San Luis Rey. One thing to note is staff worked with our city engineer to come up with a material to be used for the mid-block crosswalks, and asphalt crosswalks were recommended, in addition to also adding decorations that are similar to what's currently there. But those decorations have not been selected yet, and we will bring some themes and samples to the ATP subcommittee for review and follow with a final recommendation to the city council at a future council meeting. That concludes the presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any public comments?
No public comment, Madam Mayor.
I have a concerns. I have a resident that had reached out and said that when they were trying to get similar bumps in their HOA because of people that were zooming by, they were informed by the fire marshal that they were not allowed because of concerns with an ambulance going through, and that they were not allowed. I inquired with the city clerk of if they're not permitted, why are they on El Paseo, and where is the documentation of approval? I was put in the memo that we have here says that, let me find that response. Approval from the Riverside County Office of the Fire Marshal has not been previously included on agenda, as it is typically a procedural step handled beforehand rather than requiring explicit approval. The city has obtained verbal confirmation from the fire marshal to proceed with the proposed crosswalks. And a second question, according to the fire marshal, the El Paseo crosswalks were reviewed and approved by them. The fire marshal recalls granting approval for the speed cushions on San Pablo Avenue. The approvals were communicated verbally during meetings that involved the fire marshal, fire department personnel, and city staff. At present, the specific dates are not available. However, the fire marshal distinctly recalls engaging in frequent and open communication with city staff regarding these projects, including reviewing and approving them prior to city council considerations. Because we have 3 that are in existence where we know that they are not ADA compliant, we are talking about removing the temporary dining decks because we have work that needs to be done. If this project does advance, does it make sense to have them coincide with the renovations on the street or the slurry or the road improvements that we're doing? But mostly my concern echoes what the residents are asking. what is the need to make them raised when we have a lot of visitors or just people that are going through there that don't respect the speed anyway. They're running through. I can see people just the other day, they're not even using the crosswalks. They're still jaywalking. And it's frustrating to see that the request is that we spend this money on something that I find, whether it's a questionable measure that has worked. And I feel that because there is the fire marshal or California Fire Code section 503.41 stating that traffic calming devices shall be approved by the fire code official, it says that installation. I remember, I think it said that it's explicitly said they're prohibited.
They're prohibited unless they're approved by the fire marshal. And one thing to note, we did reach out to the fire marshal for a written approval, and they did submit an email after that memo was submitted for your consideration. So we have a system now, our Cartograph. It's our asset management system, and we'll be able to capture all the correspondence and information going forward. When the first raised crosswalks were constructed in 2019, that system was not in place. So it was kind of putting emails and whatnot in files. And unfortunately, some of those files are lost, frankly. Folks retire, they move, and they have their own filing system. However, with this asset management system, we'll be able to capture that information. But so that answer, I hope that answers that one question regarding the raised crosswalks. You also made a comment regarding if they help. During the study that staff, we worked with our city engineer. We also worked with our traffic engineering consultant who did indicate that they did help reduce speed. And they work well at streets at 30 miles an hour and less. However, streets over 30 miles an hour, not so well. In El Paseo, I believe it's 25 miles an hour. So they have worked from what we have been speaking with the merchants. They are very favored in that area.
Mayor. The raised crosswalks have been a huge success. I know they slow people down because they slow me down. And I think I'm representative. They slow me down without doing any injury to the vehicle because they are raised. They're not a narrow bump. And it may be that what was proposed and rejected in an HOA was a narrower bump. I don't know, but that's a separate question, and it can certainly be taken up elsewhere, whether there was an improper denial. But these raised crosswalks have been extraordinarily popular with merchants. We know there's a need to encourage shoppers to visit the north side of the street where sun can be an impediment. And if we take one jaywalker out of the middle of the street and into a crosswalk, it's a win. The best way to reduce unsafe jaywalking is the additional raised crosswalks put forth in this proposal. It's been thoroughly studied. It's been thoroughly vetted with merchants, and I move approval.
I'll second the motion.
I have some comments. I am the council liaison for the El Paseo Parking and Business Improvement District. And I will tell you that the merchants will attest to the fact that it has significantly slowed traffic down on El Paseo. And at first, when they were first put in, there was a little pushback, a little reticence about them. And it wasn't long before they were embracing them. And then, as we all know, the merchants on the other side, on the west side of El Paseo, were asking for them to slow people down because they are effective and they do the job. As far as the crosswalks, a lot of people use them. Some people still like to cross where there isn't a crosswalk. And especially now that jaywalking is no longer illegal, there's less compelling reasons. But as Councilmember Kelly said, if we have just one or two using the crosswalks, we're better off. So they have really slowed people down, caused it to be a safer environment, and certainly a more welcoming shopping environment. Thank you.
I express that where the merchants that see it daily have seen the impact. I think when people are driving at night, when they are going at a faster rate, when they don't see, it's the perception of how they're lit, it doesn't really give the indication. And when we're looking at the triangles, not everybody understands what those mean. In terms of whether or not it causes any injury to the vehicle, all we have to do is go down here on San Pablo and you can see where there are scrapes in the road. This recently paved street, our brand new area of San Pablo, which is so beautiful, has these raised crosswalks where the decorations are getting dirty from all of the tire marks, and that's natural. We can't do anything to change that other than they shouldn't be painted. Right now, with what we have, if we should request that they be painted over, is there a template where somebody from Public Works can come and just spray, and how long would it take to repaint one of those?
So we have a vendor that's starting, an on-call striping vendor. This is a new program that we're incorporating this fiscal year, and it's a 5-year, potentially a 5-year contract. And they provide turnkey services. So one of the things they do, they have these giant power washers. They use these at airports to remove scuff marks from airplanes and whatnot. They go throttle the PSI to where it'll clean some of these markings. And these are tools that we didn't have in the past. So we know there's a need to keep those crosswalks looking fresh. So staff is also working on other methods to accomplish that.
Let's vote.
I would make a substitute motion that we take these two items separately. We are looking at two entirely different geographic regions. We are looking at one that is a flat adjustments with no raised provisions, and the other one where we do have raised crosswalks. So I motion that we separate these two items for a separate vote.
It seems to die for lack of a second. So let's vote on the first motion.
Motion passes 4-1 with Mayor Quintanilla voting no.
Now we move on to our public hearing number 15. The motion is to open the session. The public hearing to consider making a finding of exemption under CEQA and approve a street vacation of an 8,582 square foot portion of Shadow Lake Lane, Shadow Lake Drive in favor of a property at 73745 Shadow Lake Drive.
And I will recuse myself due to the proximity to my home.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Is that a second? Wasn't sure if you were going to be recusing as well. Thank you.
All right. Excuse me, sorry. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Carlos Flores, Principal Planner, here to present on the public hearing in front of you today. So the request is by the property owner, Mr. Gordon German, who has filed a street vacation to vacate an 8,582 square foot portion of Shadow Lake Drive adjacent to their property. The Streets and Highways Code, so the State of California Streets and Highway Code, allows for City Council to approve of street vacation as long as certain procedures and findings are met. As part of this, on March 19th of this year, the Planning Commission adopted a resolution which found this project to be consistent with the city's general plan, which is required as part of this process. Some context here in front of you is a location of the site. So on the right-hand side, you'll get a zoomed in version of the site, and on the left-hand side, more zoomed out. But the area in question is that vacant and mostly unimproved area that you'll see. The applicant is the owner at that site with the red indicator there. Here's some background. The proposed area for vacation was dedicated for public use as part of the Shadow Mountain Park Estates when that first came in. This area has remained vacant and unimproved since it's recorded, and there's been no physical improvements existing or planned. As you can see in this original plan, it seemed like there was some original idea to continue Shadow Lake Drive all the way to the south. But as you see here, it's essentially remained as a dead end for with no vehicle activity there. The applicant is proposing this vacation. What this would do would give the owner this property. They would keep a 20-foot sanitation easement in favor of the Coachella Valley Water District, as well as an easement, drainage easement in favor of the city. On that side, they would not be able to construct within any of those easements, but if this is to be approved, they would be able to expand further west onto this site. As previously mentioned, the City of Palm Desert's Planning Commission found this project to be consistent with our general plan. Additionally, the vacation area, it's not needed for street purposes, and it would not, approving this would not compromise the operational capacity of the roadway. We reviewed this in accordance with CEQA. We recommend the project is exempt as it is an existing facility. Additionally, this project was noticed in multiple ways. It was noticed in the Desert Sun. It was noticed to surrounding property owners, and it was noticed with physical signs on the site as well. No objections to the project were received by city staff. All that said, city staff recommends that the city council adopt a resolution to make a finding of exemption and approve the proposed street vacation. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
I don't think a case quite like this has come up during my time on council, and I'm confused about giving property to a private party. I would guess that this almost 9,000 square feet as a market value in the range of $350,000, $400,000. So is there no process for the city to be compensated when we determine we don't need to keep it?
There is no current process for that. Within the state code, I'll start with that. There is no requirement for anything like that of any appraisal or any compensation that's needed to be had. And within the city municipal code, there is no requirement or process for any of that through a street vacation. With all that said, the city is looking at street vacations to see if there is a process where we could do that, where we could update our municipal code for when people apply for street vacations, there's some sort of appraisal or some additional consideration that can be taken, or additional actions maybe that can be taken with it by council. But currently, as it stands with this one, none of that is in place.
So do we have the option of denying this request until ordinances are updated to create a process for receiving compensation?
You do have the option to deny a request.
Took the words out of my mouth.
That seems like we have that we have that responsibility to our residents in the city of Palm Desert as well.
So do we need to see if there's public comment?
Exactly. I was going to look over and say, any public comment?
No public comment, Madam Mayor.
Any comments, Councilmember Truby?
Should we close the public hearing?
Well, everyone's already had a chance to speak. Does this need to be part of the record before we conclude?
If you can close the public hearing after public comments taken, and then you can go into the deliberations.
So,
You can close it at this point.
okay, thank you. We have now closed.
Yeah, just question is why? What's the benefit or reason for doing this? I mean, we're reserving nearly half for drainage still, right? About over 3,000 plus square feet is meant to be reserved for flood control, et cetera. What other benefit is there to the city to do this?
Benefit to the city. So again, this is a process available to owners in situations like this, which are rare. You know, as mentioned, it is a rare situation where there's property that isn't that was originally identified for street purposes, but isn't used for that. So adjacent owners are able to make this request. In terms of benefit to the city, it's more about it's essentially abandoning this because there's no current or future use for any street purposes. To my understanding, it removes any obligations in this area for the city because it is not theirs and it's privately owned. You know, some considerations are about improving the area because again, there's no plans for us to improve the area. The owner then would have the ability to construct or landscape into that area.
Yeah, I agree with Councilmember Kelly. Why are we giving it away? You know, it has value. So.
Yeah, I can envision a circumstance where just a small strip of property is involved, which would have no market value and is only potentially usable by the adjoining property owner, where this might make sense. But this is a large, pretty cherry in terms of its position, a piece of property.
Right. And could another home be built there or an ADU unit?
Yeah. So
That, if I may answer that, that would only be, sorry, are you asking if this is to be approved by the current owner?
No.
Just in general?
Is there enough room so the city keeps ownership and we sell it at market value? And could it be marketed as another home could be built?
Well, to be clear, that would involve more process in the sense of this is not a developable lot for home or construction or anything like that, right? It's conveyed currently for street purposes. So you're not allowed to build or sell the street to a private owner to build a home or anything to that effect.
I think the question is, if it was abandoned, could there be a lot line adjustment to allow something else to be built on the property? And that gets to the market question.
Correct. That could happen. Yes, if it is to be sold that way.
yeah, I will move to deny the request and instruct staff to explore alternative ways to release the city's interest that would appropriately compensate the city.
If I may add my thoughts, that's an excellent question. If not only are we giving something away that belongs to us that we can use to generate revenue, we wouldn't just go and give away any other piece or any other parcel. This is not a tiny piece. Excellent question. Would this allow them to grow and get more revenue off of our essentially gift? There is another property somewhere in the city where they were exploring how to make a swap, but the city has felt that it's best to leave that open in the event of needing to park trucks or work trucks as things need to be developed. So I think it would be beneficial to leave it as it is in the event that there needs to be any work done on the streets. There's a place to move and maneuver. Is that similar to the other location?
Not really. It's very common for cities to abandon right away. Typically what happens is when a subdivision comes in, they plat the subdivision, they're making educated guesses on where the infrastructure is going to be placed in that subdivision. Plans change, development changes, people combine lot lines, we have new technologies. So it's not uncommon at all to vacate street right away to a resident. They do pay taxes on it. The thing that's interesting here is you've got almost a fifth of an acre. And so I think that perhaps another way of going about this would be to allow us a couple of meetings to meet with the city attorney, get their input on this. And if you want to develop a policy like that, we certainly could. You can deny this and they can reapply. But I think it's the size of the property that's so different. Most of the time, it's just a simple 30-foot easement there that we don't need, that we're dedicating them to pay property taxes on. But this is a little different.
Right, so my motion was to deny and direct staff to explore alternatives, so.
I'll second that motion if I can make just one or two more comments.
By all means.
Perfect. What, do we have to do anything? Can't we just leave it as is? There's no danger in that, right? Just leaving it as an empty piece of land. Is that correct?
Right.
There's no hurry, there's no obligation, there's no, okay.
Right.
Okay, cool. And then, yeah, it does indeed say, page 43, if approved, the owner would be able to construct structures further west into the existing vacant and unimproved area. So indeed, this is sizable enough. I mean, it's there right in writing to answer Gina's query as well. So thank you very much.
Mayor, if I may, for this one. If the council is headed towards a denial of this particular item, the proposed resolution in front of the council is for an approval. So if perhaps as part of the motion, there could be a direction to staff to prepare a denial resolution that at the next meeting, the council could look over and approve.
And city attorney?
Does that have to occur before exploration of alternatives?
No, so I think the motion is twofold. One is to deny this particular request for the moment, unless you are envisioning it separately. If for the moment, the council's desire is to deny the application, and then for however much time it takes, staff will study the issue and then return, perhaps by that.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the intent.
So then the proposed resolution, it's not that the council's not acting on it, it's that the council is potentially looking at denying the application.
We are denying it.
I think after the vote is why I was saying potentially.
Because we still haven't voted on, that's the
Right,
the
right.
technicality. We
Right.
haven't crossed the threshold yet.
Right. But I think if the motion passes, it's a denial, right? And so we need a resolution that denies the application.
So I'll leave it to you and staff to determine if that has to come back to us immediately at the next meeting, or if it can be deferred while staff is exploring alternatives. So we have a different end to the story to communicate to the resident before it comes back to us. You understand?
So is it would you prefer a continuance of the item?
Well, no. The motion is that council is not disposed to grant this, to pass this proposed resolution and request staff to explore alternatives.
I think that there's value in that because we would be able to look at, do we need to update an ordinance? Do we need to create something new so that we can address this in the future? So I see the intent of the continuance, but this would also be served by denying, in my opinion, denying the motion, denying the request, and then taking our time afterwards. If after that, they look at, the applicant should look at it, consider and say, maybe I will reapply, that's up to them. But I feel from what my colleagues and I have stated, it seems like it's a pretty firm no, and that we reserve the opportunity to look at how to address it in the future.
So you can determine after tonight whether you would need to bring a formal denial back to us immediately or not.
Can this be revisited, as Councilmember Kelly was saying, with the caveat that the homeowner, we can determine some sort of fair market value?
Yeah, and if I could ask the council's indulgence, I know it's been a long afternoon, but I know Ms. Richard and his staff have been working on a right-of-way vacation ordinance. So if we could give him just 1 minute to kind of tell you what he's doing.
Well, I don't think we're going to solve it tonight.
I think we're ready to bring it back then. So
If I may, just quickly, we've been working with BB&K on a number of cleanup amendments. This was one, as it was continuing through the process, we realized we did not have any regulations. Worked with them to put together a draft ordinance. We got that ordinance, I want to say about 2 weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago. We are ready and can probably, I don't know if we can, I don't believe we have any advertising issues. It is going to be an ordinance, but I think we could be ready to go with that ordinance next council meeting.
Is there an urgency in particular of why we would need to have it by the next council meeting? I mean,
no, it's just a matter that this request reflected the fact there wasn't a way to assess it. To answer your questions, staff was anticipating these questions and the resolution, but there is not a sense of urgency. We can communicate to the property owner what the concern is. We'll work with Israel to make sure that we nail down the proper process, and we'll be back to you here in the next meeting or two to continue this, to make sure we have an order. Okay, there we go.
That was the intent.
I think we're pretty clear.
Motion passes 4-0 with Mayor Pro Tem Harnick recused.
We move on to item number 16, information items. Do we have any information items to report? No information items. So we will now adjourn the meeting at 6:27 p.m. I appreciate all of you and your patience. Attend the autism event tomorrow, Civic Center Park in Indio.